No, I won't be talking about aliens, lollies, or working conditions for staff. Does that make the title clickbait? Yes. Okay, now on to the show! So what is it that's bringing down Darling in the Franxx, anime, and the fabric of reality itself? Patience. We'll get there. Okay, we're there. Dr. Franxx sucks. That's only half the problem. But before we get to the more important half, let's quickly run down who Dr. Franxx is. For time and effort's sake, I'm just assuming you've watched the show, so I'm just gonna state what we know about him outright. He created the mechs and put together the experimental Squad 13. He's initially framed in semi-opposition to APE as the other option in the power leader dynamic. That's not clearly corrupt and morally bankrupt. Yet, I think. We learn he also led the experiments on the children in ZeroTwo, although with his status in society, I think we already inferred some sort of nefariousness or foul play. He got a questionable backstory episode where we learn he's an atheist, and I don't know, I guess he just invented immortality and everything just because? Oh, and he's now obsessed with the Classical Princess, cause ooh, pretty. He doesn't do anything at all until he sort of helps ZeroTwo, and then resolution. And now he's a good old chap? Okay. We can all agree his character was a waste, right? Utterly destroyed in anything compelling that could have come from his character being in the story. He's not some complicated character with a questionable judgment, a desire for scientific discovery, but has a good heart, and yada yada. Because his actions don't connect or relate to each other in the slightest, and the motivations and betrayal of those actions aren't the least bit realistic or understandable. So what point finally put me over the edge with Dr. Franxx? Episode 15? 19? 22? And there, dear viewer, is that all the more important part I spoke of. Why the fuck did he grab her ass in episode 1? Just why? What's the purpose? How does it tie into anything that's happening or will happen? What is the point? Does the director just have a fetish or something? It makes no sense. Ah! Okay. I'm okay. Let's just break this down into 3 parts, okay? Why this action doesn't fit the character himself, the trope itself and the laziness of them, and overall the pointlessness, how it perpetuates the objectification of women. Hang with me there. Why doesn't this action fit the character? I mean, it's a sexualized society, right? Now we know he's not that good of a guy, right? First off, the sexualized society solely exists around the kids. The whole point of this dystopia that has been created is that the adults don't have the need or desire to procreate, while the whole lives of the teenagers are solely framed as ignorant battle sex bots. And yes, we do learn that Dr. Franxx doesn't drink the immortality juice and therefore has working naughty bits. Outside of the poor writing and portrayal of that decision for his character, wait, no, that's exactly it. Yes, we do learn that he's a not-so-good guy via his poorly written actions in the show, but not once were those unhealthy or downright evil actions given a horny spin. Not until ZeroTwo came along anyway. He has never, not even during his decision to keep his mortality in genitals, was it established that he just loves the sex, baby. It's his love interest that suggests the slightest bit of relation to that fact, not him. So why in the name of God is he randomly grabbing this chick's ass? One he probably experimented on as a kid, mind you. He doesn't even fit the "oh, I'm just a quirky old man" attribute. Let's move on to the laziness and possibly dangerous implications of that then. This trope, aka guy who is quirky, usually old, has flaws, is horny as fuck, but is good at heart, aka always demonstrated in an act of sexual assault for comedic effect. Huh? While I'm someone who will actually defend the use of cliches and tropes, they have to be done right. Their execution is what makes a trope good or bad. Unfortunately, this is one that's often poorly used, but nowhere more egregiously than here. If this fucking ass grab is gonna be used as a form of characterization for that metal bastard, then tie it into his actual fucking character, as shittily written and poorly executed as it is. If one of his flaws that we are supposed to overlook because he's a good guy at heart is that he's a horny bastard, then okay, I guess. That's not always the worst thing ever, but actually tie it into his character? Maybe make that the reason he doesn't want immortality? Because he likes to fool around? Maybe portray him as a bit of a player or something in his past that starts with his cardboard cutout of a wife and ends with the hots for a million-year-old underground mole lolly. And even if the intention is for us to hate this guy, then two things. This action still doesn't fit into his characterization in the slightest. Or, why give him some half-assed shitty redemption arc towards the end of the story? Because that makes him a complex character? Sure, maybe? If his actions were in any way understandable to a real human being and more than just lifeless pages of text. So in the end, it was just a lazily executed trope to poorly try to give you an initial impression of his character and possibly titulate a few with prime, grade A sexual assault. Now that we know this cheek pinching is not of the wholesome grandma variety, and that it's a lazily executed trope that doesn't fit Dr. Franxx' character at all, let's talk about some dangerous implications and why actions like these arguably shouldn't even be here. At least not without the appropriate nuance to contextualize it. The sexual objectification of women. As a whole, it's a complicated and touchy subject for anime and, quite frankly, everything. Like, portraying women in anime as nothing but a pair of tits and a nice ass has the same problems as any other media. But that being said, I'm not making the argument that fan service is inherently bad. To avoid getting lost in a bunch of different semantic discussions over the topic as a whole, let's look at just this one trope and what we can derive from its use in Darling in the Franxx. For the Doctor. Would it be an okay scene if it fit his character to be a sexual deviant? For the most part, no. Primarily because it's episode 1. We don't have any of that context yet. All we see is that this old dude gets away with grabbing this chick's ass because he's the boss? Because it being the trope, suggests that there's nothing really that wrong with it because he's just some quirky old coot. At no point do we get the context that it was a fucked up thing to do in that episode, and since his character as a whole was written so poorly, we never really get that context. Because at the end of the day, in episode 1, we see that we can grab her ass and all that comes from it is some light resistance and cute blushing. And this is anime, so we all know that secretly kind of a good thing and doesn't cast an ounce of bad favor onto the aggressor. It's just brushed aside by the characters and the anime itself. It's just a fact of life. Ew. And I might be making a mountain out of a molehill here. I realize that. But it's still not a good thing. So let's point out that this is disgusting. This woman being valued so little that sexual assault against her is no big deal? That's not cool. And I can't be the only one who saw that at the start of the show and got a little shiver down my spine. But I too, as the anime did, glossed over it. To watch and enjoy the rest of the show. So maybe I'm no better. Maybe anime and media as a whole has conditioned me to care a lot less about these things than I should. Because all that matters is that I enjoy the show and not what the show possibly instills into our psyches, especially the younger of us who also partake in this kind of entertainment. Because the show still utterly wastes its potential on a number of things, including, not least of all, Dr. Franxx as a character, and at least give some kind of justification for this scene so we don't all feel like quite such perverted human beings. Fuck this.
れにじゃ。